The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. New York Mets in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko. My co-host tonight is Robert Cole. The Rose brothers are indisposed, and he and I are going to do it ourselves. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Good, Ralph. Personally good, but not happy about our Mets.
Oh no, not much to be happy about. First thing we should talk about is what was right from the horse's mouth. Uncle Steve had it wasn't a presser, it was an announcement, sort of. And he laid it out. Would you analyze that speech?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of anticipation when he announced, that he was going to have a conference, the following day. And, it ran the gamut from he's going to fire the manager, he's going to fire the general manager, he's going to make all these upheavals, make all these changes, and none of that happened. Basically, he said, he knows the fans aren't happy, he's not happy. He thinks that what they have in place can still work. They want to start building from within as far as pitching goes, and start developing their own pitching, which, as we know, has been lacking. And pretty much kind of went along that. Nothing really new, nothing really earth shaking. He didn't give a vote of confidence to Buck or Billy Epler, which normally would wind up being a kiss of death. He didn't do that. And I personally think they're just going to ride it out, get to the end of the season and, shake things out from there.
Robert, I've asked you this before, and you've told me basically that there are no really good pitching prospects on the horizon. So in order to get these prospects in the system, they're going to have to start trading guys, perhaps at the deadline, but and guys of value. And the first player that comes to mind is, for me, was Marte. Would you give an analyzation as you see it as to whether or not that would work, whether or not it's possible, and whether or not it's reasonable?
Yeah, well, your basic premise is correct. Starting to trade some guys and bringing back young pitching prospects. They did that with Escobar. They traded Escobar to the Angels. They picked up two young pitchers, both ranked in the top 25 in the Angel system. I think one was 19, one was 21 in the rankings. Nothing great, but both were in Double-A, both are young, both can be developed, hopefully, and that's the whole idea. You say Marte, it all depends on what teams are looking for. In my mind, I think Max Scherzer and Verlander would probably bring back some young prospects from teams that are looking for pitching going down the stretch. Now, probably the Mets are going to have to eat some salary on each of those guys, but that may be something to look towards. Now, that may not happen for a couple of more weeks. I think they want to see if they can get out of this funk, win some games and possibly get back into the wild card race. But right now, they're not in a very good position. They're about as far behind the Braves as you can get. They're not going to catch the Braves. And they're behind a number of other teams in the wild card. So they have a lot of work to do as far as that goes.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just want to know if you feel that their downfall was their major downfall was Diaz's injury.
Well, that certainly was a big part because they had their team basically set. Okay, they made their moves in the bullpen. They brought in Robertson. Robertson was going to be the eighth inning guy. Ottavino was going to be the seventh inning guy. Smith was going to be the sixth inning guy. And Diaz, of course, in the ninth. Well, once Diaz went down, it was already into spring training. It happened during the World Championships. And there wasn't a whole lot more they could do. I know Epler is getting a lot of heat for bringing in a lot of guys who had options, okay? But in reality, you have to do that, and every team does that now in the bullpen. They sign a bunch of guys that have options. They put them into their minor league system, and as injuries and things happen, they bring them up. And the Tampa Bay Rays are a perfect example of that. The Rays do that all the time, and so do other teams. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, the Diaz injury, had a major effect, I think, on the pitching staff as a whole.
Okay. What position player other than Marte, who we've mentioned, would you consider moving?
Well, I think the hot commodity right now is Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham has been ripping the cover off the ball. He's been the Mets' best hitter the last 2 months. And, a team looking for, a guy that can play the outfield. He can play all three outfield positions. He can DH.
Speed. He's got a little speed.
Got a little speed. He can play, defense. He's a fiery kind of a player. And I think, to me, right now, at this moment, he would be the hot commodity, as far as all the Mets.
Isn't it funny almost how commodities and ball players go up and down? I mean, it could have been more than a month ago. They're going to DFA if this, that, and the other thing. And Pham was mentioned by us on a podcast. And, I mean, it's changed so much, so quickly. One has to wonder. Do you think Verlander and Scherzer will be here at the end of the year?
It all depends on what the Mets do in the next, 6 weeks. If they go on a winning streak, they get back into the wild card race, I would say yes. Okay. Verlander's, got another couple of years on his contract. So, Scherzer, on the other hand, I think this is last year. Next year may be an option year. I'm not 100% certain. But Scherzer has already indicated that he would waive his no-trade clause in his contract if the Mets decide they want to go in a different direction. But he said he would much rather stay and make it work here. So we'll have to see. Now, something I'm going to bring up, which is going to sound kind of strange. I think one of the biggest problems with the Mets right now, okay, is Steve Cohen. And the reason why I say that, okay, is he is too much of a fan. And he gets involved, with the inner workings of the team as a fan. and that's dangerous. And he's done that several times. The Carlos Correa, deal back in spring training. Okay, he did that on his own, with Boris, at night talking on the phone. And, of course, he can do whatever he wants. But as a fan, that would be like giving you or me, $5 million to play with the Mets. And we would do some of the things that he's done, like try to get Carlos Correa, sign Justin Verlander to an enormous contract, and things such as that. And I think what the Mets need more than anything is a president, charge of baseball operations. And, now, Steve Cohen is doing that.
There's someone under contract, I think it's the Brewers, who is being paid by them and is rumored to be taking over as the president. Can't remember his name.
David Stearns. His name is
You're
David
absolutely Stearns. Right. Because I wonder if that's David Stearns' son, the basketball executive.
No, I believe they spell it differently.
Okay. But either way, that's a hot rumor of him taking over. And in Steve's defense, he was making a statement to the New York City, to the Met fans, that I'm going to spend as much money or do whatever it takes to win. You're right, as a fan, but I think his mind is open to change on giving up the power to do what we can both call impulsive moves, like fantasy baseball moves. You got a fantasy baseball team. All of a sudden, you trade Barry Bonds for Rich Little. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I traded Glavine for Strawberry. Always thinking, if you're going to have in a fantasy league, if you're going to have superstars, hold on to the position players. They're less questionable than pitchers. So I remember trading Strawberry for Glavine the year that Strawberry and the Dodgers had their little romance that didn't last that long. And it took me out of the year. So, yes, making moves as a fan is a lot different than as an owner. I'll excuse him after all those years with the Wilpons. He's good for whatever for the rest of my life, whatever he does. But we want him to do the best he possibly can. So your point is very well taken, Robert Cole. Now I'm going to come to a subject that I discussed with you, Mert, and I on a message in preparation for this show. Marty's indisposed, but he gives his response to whether or not, and it's my rhetorical question to you guys, that, and speaking of Stevie spending all the money in God's creation and paying that exorbitant luxury tax, what do you think of O'Hante as a New York Met? Start with you, Robert.
Okay, well, when we spoke, way back before the season started, I suggested that the Mets try to make that deal before the season started. And, I was willing to, trade a couple of the young guys to make that happen. And the reason being...
Well, now it's going to be a free agency decision. So I don't think this is going to be for this year. But my question is, should they go, and as Marty says, they should put the money into the minor leagues, this, that, and the other thing, build from within. But I can't help really falling in love with a pitcher who hits and a hitter who pitches. And not just hits, but hits with superstar ability, and not just pitches, but someone who pitches with superstar ability. I mean, I'm enthralled. That's from that standpoint. What do you think next year will bring along those lines?
Oh, well, I think the Mets are going to make a try to get him. I think the favorite for signing him would probably be the Dodgers. A couple of reasons. He seems to like it on the West Coast. There's a large Japanese population on the West Coast, but there is in New York as well. But, it's going to take an enormous amount of money. Cohen certainly can afford it. As far as developing your players, if you trade a couple of people, like I said, Scherzer, Verlander, you mentioned Marte, I mentioned Pham, you'd be wanting to get back young, pitching prospects, not older. You don't want to make the mistake of getting guys that are near the end of the line. You want to trade these guys to get younger. Now, a lot of fans aren't going to like it because they want the big names right away. My biggest fear coming with the trading deadline is that, they do something stupid. And I just hope they don't do anything, rather than, do something stupid. And by stupid, I mean, trading some of these young guys now. I would certainly wait till the off season, wait until you get somebody in place, a president of baseball operations to help you make those decisions. So it'll be interesting. But as far as Ohtani, if you can sign him for money and it's not going to cost players or anything like that, yeah, by all means, you go for it.
Okay. Compared to putting the money into the farm system and the scouting and what have you, I guess that's what I meant. Well,
but it's already there, okay? You're going to have the draft, I think, in a week or two. Okay, I'm very interested to see how they draft. Usually in baseball, you take the best available prospect, okay? Unlike some of the other sports where you draft for need. In baseball, usually it's whatever the best prospect is, when it's your turn to pick. So I'm interested to see, what they come up with. They have a couple of guys in the minor leagues, the lower minor leagues right now, that every time they talk trade with another team, the other team wants those players. So they have a couple of guys in their system that, other team scouts are looking at. So, they have a couple of guys there. You want to fill it up, like the Rays do. The Rays just fill up their system. They make trades. They keep getting young pitchers, guys that we never heard of. And then all of a sudden, here they are pitching in Tampa. So, I can see them doing that.
Okay. Just had a thought, and this crossed my mind earlier in the week when we still didn't know whether or not Buck's job was in jeopardy. It was my contention what they need most is a little bit of a boost. And primarily, the guy who signed for the longest period of time, Lindor, is hitting .211. It was my contention, just thinking about it, that even though he has no experience as a manager, the Mets are in the habit of signing this guy as a manager, and Carlos Beltran might be the guy who could light some sort of a fire or temper a fire under Lindor's ass. And I thought that because I was somewhat reluctant to look at this season with any hope whatsoever, that they might as well go for Beltran and move Buck up in the organization, trade places. Beltran's got his finger on the pulse, and he's an executive, a special assistant to Epler or Stevie himself. So my point is, them trading places wouldn't hurt my feelings. What do you think?
Well, see, my thought is that if they were thinking along those lines at all, that Beltran would be in the dugout right now as the bench coach. You know, they had that opportunity to make him a bench coach and sort of the understudy to Buck, but they didn't do that. So, you know, I'm not sure that he's in their minds as a manager. He may be in their minds as possibly the general manager at some point, you know, under a strong president of baseball operations. I could see that, but not so sure about him being the manager. Don't forget, when they named him manager, that was under the old regime. That was the Wilpons and you know, the other Brody Van Wagenen. So that's very true. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Beautiful. At least I got my opinion out there, and it's out of my craw, so to speak. And that's what podcasting is about. And as a fan, I am not qualified to make any of these decisions. Just come up with the questions as a podcaster, and seems to be working. I think we have the best Met podcast out there. Robert Cole, thank you for being here. The indisposed Rose brothers, Marty and Bernie, you both missed, and we will be back at you as soon as humanly possible. I'm walking through brick walls to set it up right now. But again, I'm only human. Thank you, Robert. Great show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Talk soon, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, New York Mets in the zone. I'm going to say something I haven't thought of telling you guys in a long time. Box up any book of any subject for kids. A used book, a new book in good condition, and take them down, boxes, crates of books, to the local Head Start program in your community. It is about the best we could do societally to get kids to read. And some of the kids, most of the kids in the Head Start program all kids need to learn to read. Especially these kids need to develop a passion and what have you that only reading can do. And if you'll do me a favor and do that, it would be terrific. I'd appreciate it. So the network would thank you. The spirit of the late Mark Littell, who was part of our Comfortably Zoned network and passed away recently. His mother was the first Head Start nurse, and either the first one in Missouri or it could have been the first one ever. I don't remember which, but it would be nice. Do that for us. We'd appreciate it. Do that for society, and do that for yourself. Nothing goes better than getting a kid with a book. Thanks again. Thank you, Robert. Be well, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios and happy trails.
Good night.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.